Hi, do you sometimes wonder why things are not moving in your life? Why business is not doing well? Why you have not gotten work? Or if you have a low paying work? Or why you're not happy? Why your marriage is not doing well, is in the doldrums? Or your relationship is not doing so well? Or why you seem to be following a certain trend in making decisions which don't turn out well? Well, if you ever find yourself thinking so, worry no more. You're not alone. So many people are struggling with this, myself included at some point in life. Well, though I still struggle with this, but I'm beginning to find ways and means by which I can make wise decisions, become successful, and live a happy life. How do I manage to do this, and what are some of the techniques that I use? Well, in this quest to attain these three things, I do so many things. And one of them, some of them include reading the Bible and meditating upon it, uh, working out, acquiring a skill, and working on something. This could be a business or it could be work that you already have. Well, for some people right now in our country, uh, you could be unemployed or you could be in business and you're not doing well. Well, what I'm about to share with you has got answers to almost everything that you're facing in your life today. In today's episode, we're going to talk about Stoicism and how you can actually use Stoicism to become happier, successful, and wiser. Stay tuned. What is Stoic philosophy and what does it advocate? Well, Stoic philosophy was started by someone by the name Zeno of Citium, who was a merchant on his way to a foreign country from Cyprus. And while in Athens by the sea, they had a shipwreck and stopped there for some repairs. While in Athens, Zeno went into a bookshop, got a book about Socrates, who was also a good philosopher from Athens. He read it and he was really intrigued by what he read in that book. So he goes ahead and asks the bookseller, who else do you still have people like Socrates in Athens today? And at that time, there was a philosopher who happened to pass by, and that was someone by the name Crates. Crates was from something called the Cynics. Zeno follows Crates and he joins their school of philosophy and he learns so many things, but then later on he quits because these people are fixed minded. Anyway, enough of that. We are going to talk about the history and the background of Stoic philosophy later. But just to get back to Stoicism, Stoicism talks about three things, right? This is a school that was later on started by Zeno. Zeno talks about three things in Stoic philosophy. These were the original branches of Stoic philosophy. It talks about natural physics, which is basically physics, what you study in school. And in physics, it talks about physics because physics is the relationship. Physics is the universe, is how the universe works. The forces, the energy, matter, atoms, everything about the universe is discovered through physics. And then Zeno also talks about logics, which you can also talk about, we can also call intelligence. This is basically how you reason. It's basically about reasoning. And then he also talks about ethics. Ethics is basically the principle of conduct. How do you conduct yourself? And in conducting yourself, they advocate for decorum. While in ethics, in intelligence, they talk about wisdom and courage and also justice. So, several philosophers came after Zeno. Several philosophers under Stoic philosophy came after Zeno. And one that we're going to focus on today, there are so many. There are people like Seneca, who was an advisor to Emperor Nero in, uh, in the Roman Empire. We have Epictetus. We have Marcus Aurelius, who was a very successful emperor in Rome. Uh, and actually, after his death, Rome declined so much and they never actually recovered after that. So, Marcus Aurelius actually wrote a book, though it was not meant for publication. It was just a journal that he kept for himself, that was later on published as and it's known as Meditations of Marcus Aurelius. Okay, so besides Marcus Aurelius, we also have Epictetus, whose teachings we're going to focus on today and learn how we can actually use his teachings to lead a better life. Mostly today, we're going to talk about this channel talks about wisdom, success, and happiness. But today, basically, about this philosophy, we're going to talk about wisdom and happiness. Now, Epictetus, what we're going to talk about actually was not written by, there were notes by Epictetus student, someone by the name Arian. I hope I'm not boring you so much with the details, but sometimes I just find it interesting to give a background of how it came about. So Arian was a student of Epictetus and is the one who actually took these notes on discourses of Epictetus. Now, Epictetus talks about, and something funny about Epictetus, by the way, is that Epictetus was actually a slave. He was actually a slave and he was lame. So I'm going to explain to you why this is important and how he became a philosophy despite, I mean, he became a philosopher despite the circumstances. Now, Epictetus talks about several things, and he talks about four things which can guide our happiness. The first thing he talks about is one rule, and this rule is actually the motto of Stoic philosophy. All right, and the rule is live in harmony with nature. All right, or live accordance in accordance to nature. Now, Stoic philosophy likes to talk about nature because Stoic philosophy and like most other philosophy, I'd like to believe, they're basically about understanding who we are as humans and understanding the universe in which we exist. That is basically what Stoic philosophy uh, seeks to define and understand. But then it goes beyond to seek what is our role in this existence and how can we become better in managing the resources, all right, and in becoming happy ourselves, all right. I'll give you an example. For instance, if you're a businessman, you have the responsibility or an obligation to manage your business well and to ensure that your business remains stable and remains profitable. So, in this example, I'll use the universe as the business, but then you also need to use the business to lead a happy life. All right. In other words, you're supposed to get your income from the business that is going to sustain you and make you live a better life. So, philosophy generally is about the human being and the universe. How do we fit in the universe? And how can we live a happy life in a sustainable manner that makes it also easier for people who come after us to also live a happy and better life and not to mess things up? All right. You know, like a business, you can have a manager who comes, finds a very stable business, messes it up, so that the people who come after him or her actually find a wreck of what was there initially. So, Stoic philosophy is just basically how we manage our resources that we have and how we can grow them and to live a happier life in the process and become us. So, one rule is live according to nature. Epictetus goes ahead to say that as humans, nature gave us one thing, and that is the super mind. Nature gave us a rationality. All right. If you compare humans and animals, there's a very big difference. Animals survive on instinct. All right. It's about food, running, hunting, or just staying safe so that you're not hunted upon. All right. But for human, we have a superior mind that we are supposed to use for reason. So live according to nature means we are supposed to exercise this reason, and we're supposed to use this reason to make good decisions, to make to run enterprises, to work, all right, in a manner that does not hurt us and does not hurt the other person, but in a manner that leads to, more creation and more resources. Well, I may have gone beyond what is written there, but I'm just trying to explain it by saying that the main aim of this motto is that we're supposed to exercise that rationality. We're supposed to use that mind of ours, to better, to better our lives and to better the life of those people. And actually, there's a part of something I've also read before, though this isn't part of Epictetus, is that a wise person, and that a wise person is someone who uses their rational mind. Okay. Remember, Stoic philosophy talks about virtues, which I'm going to talk about, by the way, in the next. But I can just mention virtues are wisdom, decorum, courage, and justice. So if you have these four things and you notice that the other person doesn't have them, you're supposed to exercise caution. If they're too much, you can tell them, no, what you're doing is wrong. But then you're not supposed to hit them. All right? Because philosophy and wisdom also requires that we endure. We endure those who are ignorant. All right? Not to a certain extent that makes it difficult, for you to live or to exist. But then in a way that makes you, appear as the person who really understands what that person does not understand. For instance, if there's a problem somewhere that requires patience, and someone comes, pushing and shoving, acting, basically that person lacks decorum and he lacks understanding and wisdom of the situation. Okay, that such things can happen. So you, as someone who is stoic and has got wisdom, you're supposed to understand that you can indeed, all right, you can put up with this, you can endure, but then again, you are also supposed to, if they go overboard, you're also supposed to tell them, no, what you're doing is wrong. So that is the first rule of that is what Epictetus talks about. Then Epictetus also talks about two maxims, all right, two maxims, and the two maxims basically, the first maxim says, good is virtue that evil lacks. Everything else is indifferent. What does this mean? You remember the virtues I've just talked about in the first, in the previous point, which are justice, wisdom, courage, and decorum. So the two maxims and the first maxim, all right, the first maxim of the two maxims says that good is virtue that evil lacks. So in this world, there are only two things. The first one is good, the second one is bad. The good is the virtues, the bad is the lack of those virtues. So that therefore means the good is wisdom, all right? The good is courage, the good is decorum, and the good is justice. Now, lack of these four cardinal, they're called cardinal virtues. Lack of these cardinal virtues is evil, or it is bad, right? Now, this therefore means that in our day-to-day lives, we must try to attain and practice all these four things if we are to live a happy, successful, and become wiser. We have to seek wisdom, all right? We have to seek justice, we have to seek decorum, and we have to seek courage. And by seeking, I mean we have to become this. Otherwise, if you're not this, we are bad, we are evil. Now, friends, you'll agree with me that these things are attainable. And if you really want to attain them, you can actually attain them. Now, the second maxim is that all other things are indifferent. What is the meaning of indifferent, and how is it applicable in this point? Now, indifferent means these are things that are beyond our control. Beyond our control. For instance, we want to talk about poverty. We want to talk about sickness. We want to talk about, bad politics, let's say, at place of work. These are things which are not within your control. Remember, the only thing within your control are justice, wisdom, courage, and decorum. Now, you're supposed to use these four things, all right, to manage the indifference. The indifference are the things that are going to come in your way. Sickness, poverty, a difficult friend, a cheating friend, all right, a dishonest business partner, all right, an indisciplined child, all these things are called indifference. And even death is an indifferent. Why? There's nothing we can do about death. Death is the process of life. It's actually a natural process of life, all right, that all living things have to undergo. If you're born, you have to die. So that's an indifferent. It is neither bad or good. It's a natural process. You cannot do anything about it. The same applies to, stress, challenges, being broke, poverty, politics, competition. These are indifference. Now, we are supposed to use the four cardinal virtues to help us understand, to enable us to manage this indifference. All right. So I repeat the second maxim: good is the virtue, good is virtue that evil lacks, the rest are indifferent. I'll give an example of what, and this example was used by Epictetus in the Discourses of Epictetus, also known as the DOE. I'll give you that example, then I'll also give you another example. It talks about a potter, a potter and the clay, all right? Is this person is going to sit at the wheel, right? Put the clay on the wheel and use his skills to make a nice and useful pot. Now, in this case, the potter's skills are the four cardinal principles, and the clay are the indifferent. So he's going to use his skills on the clay the same way you can use the principles on life and challenges that come in life for you to become better, for you. And by the way, remember, the most important thing in Stoic philosophy is something called a noble character. So you can use all these things to have a noble character. You can use your skills. If you use the four skills to tackle whatever comes your way in life, you have a noble character. If you fail, if you beat, if you become unruly, if you're not wise, if you're not, if you're unjust, your character is ignoble. So that is just the same way. If you're in a bad situation in life and use the four, you're required. If you want to have a happy life, just use all those four things to go through and emerge out of it successful. Now, you need to understand that you can do this, but there's also another force that has a bearing in everything that we do, and this is fate and destiny. I'll give you an example. All right. There are people who work so hard and they're very successful, and there are people who also work so hard and they're not successful. What could you attribute to this? Would you say the people who are successful and are working hard are there because of purely their hard work? And would you say that the people who are working hard and are not successful yet are not working hard enough? All right? So the people who are working hard, of course, there are some who are working hard and they're just, they're courageous, they're wise, and they're also very humble in nature. Okay? But then they're still not making it. So I would say, and the discourses of Epictetus confirms this. There's something beyond our control. There's something called destiny, there's fate, there's God, and all these things. So besides the four things, you also need to have an aspect of religion. Now this is my addition. All right, you need to have an aspect of religion. You need to believe in a God. You need to pray. All right, because not everything works the way you think they should work, or not everything works the way they're working because of your own might and because of your own hard work. There's a God, and this God is what is also, some people like to say, fate. Some people like to talk about destiny, but there's also that force in life, and that is why we need to have that aspect of faith. We need to have that aspect. I can give you an example. You see that people who are very physical, they practice, they are very fit, but then they can contract a disease, and you ask yourself, like I remember in our country, sometimes a very influential minister died. A very influential minister died, and he was very athletic, And people say that this person used to run every day in the morning and he was very fit. But then all of a sudden, well, though there's a lot of conspiracy about it, but the guy just had a cardiac arrest. All right, the guy had a cardiac arrest. Things that other people could attribute to, some people could say, and it is true, that those are lifestyle conditions. All right, things which will only come to you if you don't exercise, if you don't eat well, and if you don't do, physical workouts. But then now, that is why we say sometimes there's also an aspect of fate and an aspect of fate and destiny in these things. All right. Now, that is the that is that is all for today. In our next video, we are going to talk about the other two things that Epictetus talked about. But just to guide us, we can actually become successful, we can become wiser, and we can become happy by just understanding that not everything is within our control. The only thing that is within our control is the will, and we can use the will to choose the bad or to choose the good. And in this video, I'm encouraging us to choose the good, which is justice, wisdom, courage, and decorum. In whatever situation you find yourself, because by the way, Stoicism also says that everything that the good that happens to us is within our control. All right. If someone comes at you, you're not supposed to be angry if they're angry. All right. You can handle the situation in such a way that leaves you unoffended and leaves you actually even happier, just by accepting that maybe this person is behaving the way he's behaving because he's ignorant, he does not understand, the basic principles. And you, as a person who understands and who is a Stoic, you're supposed to be above. You're supposed to be above that, and just use this knowledge and understanding to become better. Otherwise, until next time, see you in the next video.